Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. We are actually very honored to have Mr. Khalid Hajji as our guest for today's session. He is a professor, writer, and also researcher, and as well as the president of Bruxelles for Research and Cultural Religious Dialogues. He's going to be talking about how learning English, and please give a warm welcome to Mr. Khalid Hajji.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr.
Fine, wonderful. Well, I'm delighted. I'm very happy. It's a big pleasure for me to be with you tonight. I just want to talk to you about language learning and language teaching. Language is very, very important. And be aware, language is not a matter of aping other people, to ape, to imitate, like an ape. When you say you ape someone, you imitate someone, like an ape, like a monkey. So it's learning English language. It's not about only trying to speak like in an American accent or in British accent. No, that's part of it. If you succeed in it, that's okay. If not, that's not the most important thing. Why? Because if you go to Britain or to the United States, and then the first person you meet will correct you in English because he's a native speaker. The taxi driver or the last person is going to correct your English because you are not a native speaker. So what is the added value? Why do you study English or another foreign language? Because language is a window that allows, that helps you understand the world, or to see the world from a different perspective. Language is very, very, can you hear me?
Yes, teacher.
Okay,
so you can go.
I said language is a window. There is something that I want you to learn and to focus on. Etymology. Etymology means the origin of words. Try to get in the habit of always asking about the origin of words, because it gives you, it makes your experience of language richer. So when I say language is a window, what is a window? Etymologically, window means wind's eye, a wind, an eye. It's the eye that allows the wind to get in. So when I say language is a window, it means that you can get a whiff of the outside world, a whiff, some fresh, you can breathe. Language can help you breathe some fresh air to see the world from a different perspective. Because if you speak only your own language, you are going to have only one vision of the world. You see the world from one perspective. But if you have another language, then you are richer, you become richer. Why? Because you see the world from different perspective and you have two visions of the world. I always give this example. When you say, for instance, the word monde in French, le monde, you cannot translate it into Arabic in al-alam. Why? Because the two words, they contain two different visions of the world. Because al-alam in Arabic, alama, it's a sign, a sign. Wal-alamatu tu'allim, it teaches. Wa tu'allim, it hints. But in French, when you say le monde is the contrary of l'immonde. So you see, words, sometimes you travel with words. You travel with words. And with images, less so. So words, they indicate, they give you an indication, are signs that give you an indication of the world, of things that are in the world, with L, world. So there is a relationship, there is a close relationship between word and world. Word and world. So the function of words is to help you get a glimpse, to see the world. And words are merely signs, you know, signs, علامات. And when you say, for instance, in French, to enseigner, enseigner, you know etymologically what it means. The origin of the word enseigner, it comes from mettre en signe, mettre en signe. In Arabic, when you say أعلم, أنا معلم, أعلم, it stems from the same origin as علامة, وعالم. A teacher must put the world into signs, في علامات, to transfer it. If I want to talk to you about the rain, for instance, rain, when I say rain, rain, this linguistic substance, which is R-A-I-N, rain, but immediately your mind goes to the drops of water dripping from the sky. That's the meaning of the word rain. It is merely a sign that indicates to you something which is there, the world. So the word, there is a relationship between the word and the world. So if you want to understand the world, then you have to learn how to use words in the appropriate way and how to get acquainted with the words, how to become friends with words, to become acquainted with words, to become friends with words, because it helps you change the world too. The big changes in history have been triggered always by a change in words. If you change words, if you've changed the order of words, then you change the order of things in the world. So Thomas Mann, the German writer, used to say that nothing has changed the world as words. Words, they change the world. Changing the world does not necessarily mean only revolutionizing it, but it means changing one understanding of the world, one position in the world. It's very important. So we live a challenge nowadays, challenge of the image and the digital age. In the digital age, the digital era, we tend to focus on images and forget about words. And this is a catastrophe. Yesterday, I was on the plane, and beside me, there was a kid, a very bright, smart kid, maybe 12 or 13 years old. And he was playing on his, he's got his computer. He was playing some computer games, and he invited me to play with him. And I told him, well, I am an old heart. I am an old man. I cannot play with you these video games, but I invited him to play some with words. So I simply wrote on his computer, I wrote the word avion, because he spoke French. And I told him, well, let us play, you and I, let's see what does the word avion or the plane evoke for you. What does it mean for you? Let's make some associations, connections, connect the word avion to what, to other words. And I was puzzled because it was very, very difficult for him. So I started explaining to him, well, you can see, you can think in terms of relationships, relationship of the word avion to le ciel, the sky, to, I mean, the tarmac, to customers, to, I mean, plenty of things. But because he was, the whole time, he was playing with images in a very hectic way. So it is, we have the impression that there is a widening gap between generations. Our generation relies on words to understand the world, but your generation maybe relies more on images to deal with reality. And this is a difference. So words are very important because they help us understand the nature of emotions and memory. And today, in the age of technology, big technology, I mean, big society, technology societies, they are fighting for two things: emotion and memory. Emotion and memory. And you should be aware when it comes to the question of emotion and memory. Don't let yourself be guided emotionally and when it comes also to the sense of history, the meaning of who you are. So you have to be very careful, because you can be easily manipulated if you don't have a strong sense of words. You know, if you don't manipulate words, then you end up being manipulated by words. So you have to get in the habit of questioning words, you know, asking questions about words, their origin, what they mean, and of course, then see that every word that you try to find out the meaning, the real meaning of the word in the world. You know, try to connect words to reality. You know, try to connect words you learn to reality, because sometimes our sense of reality is very poor. This is very, very poor when it comes to understanding reality, because our sense of words is very poor. You know, just try to imagine, I talk to my students, for instance, when I tell them, if you go to the boulevard, if you are in the boulevard in Oujda or in Berkane, and someone asks you about the name of trees that surrounds you, well, maybe 1% of the students would be able to give me an answer about relating to the names of trees. They simply used some generic words, shijara. But no, I want specific name of the tree, not shijara, or a bird, zawsh. That's a catastrophe. No, you are supposed to learn the name of things, how to name things. You know, how to name things, name things. Naming things, it helps you understand reality and deal with reality. And the more vocabulary you have, the more words you know, the better it is when it comes to understanding your reality. Otherwise, you will be always manipulated by people who can manipulate words. So it is very important to learn language, especially the English language, but you have to be courageous. You have to get intellectual courage to go beyond only aping, imitating, speaking like an English man, a British or an American, and, you know, just aping the accent because it's cool. You know, I want to like, it is like, it is, you know, no, that's part of it. That's part of it. It's legitimate. It's something good. But I mean, beyond, you have to learn how to think, because language gives you the tools how to think, and not only to think, but to think differently and to think critically. So if you change your relationship to words, then your relationship to the world is going to change. And so language is a window that allows you to understand, to see reality from a different perspective. It widens your sense of reality. It gives you the meaning that you live in the world, not only in some small enclosure, in some small parcel of reality, no, but in the world. Because, you know, language is very, very, very important. I'll give you one example. For instance, if you travel, in Arabic, we call the mind الحجة. You know, نسمي العقل الحجة. وما تنفع الآداب والعقل والحجة وصاحبها عند التمام يموت. Why do we call الحجة العقل? We call it الحجة because with our mind الحجة نحج. هناك حج عقلي. There is intellectual nomadism. We travel with our minds in the world. But if you want to be a mind traveler, you see, you need a strong sense of words, a strong sense of words. You need a strong relationship with words, a strong relationship with words. It allows for intellectual pilgrimage or intellectual nomadism, to travel with your mind. تحج بالعقل الحجة. So we live in some difficult world. Technology is dominating, and it dictates to us a sense of reality, how we see reality as an image, in terms of image. I think I hope I have opened your appetite for further discussion. I'm ready to listen to you, your questions, if you have any questions.
Yes, okay, so I guess we'll start with the people that we have in class. So we start with Miss Nada Husni.
Should I sit down? Oh. First of all, I want to thank you for taking a part of your time and being here with us tonight. And my question is, how old were you and how did you English? So like, as we all know, in your days, English wasn't very common in our country. So how did you actually learn it? And did you find any difficulties?
So, it was very difficult for us to come across someone, a native speaker. We used our transistors. We were waiting from 6 between 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening. We were stuck to, we would stick our ears to our transistors, waiting for the BBC World Service to listen to some English. And it was always not clear, always shh, the BBC, shh. So the occasion to listen to the English native speakers was very, very, very rare. So what we learned, for instance, in 4 years, now you can learn in maybe a question of a matter of 4 weeks. You have plenty of tools and plenty of opportunity to come to get acquainted with the language from the sources. No problem, not whatsoever. So you have a big advantage today. You have a big advantage today. You are exposed everywhere to any language you want to learn. Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese, any language you want to learn. It's very, very, it has become very, very easy. But the mind is scattered. The digital natives, they don't, they don't incorporate knowledge because they think that knowledge is at the tip of their finger. They Google knowledge, but we, on the contrary, we used to incorporate knowledge. We used to learn by heart. Now, when I ask my students some questions, I realize that they are not connected to knowledge because they think that knowledge is in their hands. They can Google it. So be aware, you have to connect yourself to knowledge, to some, you have to learn things and to incorporate things. But you have the means, when it comes to the means and the tools, you are advantaged. You have lots of advantages as opposed to our generation. We found it very, very, very difficult, but we were persevering. We did plenty of efforts, and it was not as easy as it is for you today, because as I said, you are exposed to English and to other languages. But then we have some other advantages. We were not scattered, or we were not unfocused. Today, students, even the humanities, who study the humanities, literature, they cannot read, for instance. Why? Because they are scattered. They keep scrolling and they keep, surfing, and their mind is not focused. But we used to entertain a better relationship with books. With books, it teaches you more focus. You learn how to focus. But now my impression is that we are exposed too much to images, and we keep browsing, and this, of course, one American writer has written a book which is called The Shallows. The Shallows, in Arabic, it means the duhala, not deep, shallows, dahl. It means culture is becoming shallow. We don't go deep, into language or into thinking or whatever. Why? Because we are all constantly following images, browsing, and traveling from one image to another image. It is a risk, so you have to be aware. Try to spend some time with books, focusing on words, books. It matters. Of course, you belong to a different generation. You have access to new media. That's wonderful. But don't forget that books, they give you some big advantages.
So we're going to wait for a few seconds to join us. So I have to go to Zinab Khadri. Zinab?
Yes, teacher, I'm here. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you so much, sir, for your intervention and for giving us some of your time. And okay, my question is, since this generation is more focused on pictures, fiction, and leaves behind the reality, that is the language, according to you, if I understood well, then what are the advices you can give for this generation on how to adapt with this technology and this new world that is based on it, and where it is mandatory to be using it and at the same time stick to the reality?
Wonderful, smart questions. Thank you very much. The question is, how can we use the modern tools to make the most of the modern tools in order to increase our sense of language and of reality? We used to learn things without seeing them. You see, we used to learn about, for instance, blackbird. What is a blackbird? And you never have the opportunity or the chance to see what a blackbird is. Just listen to it or learn it in a Beatles song, for instance, Blackbird, or in Cat Stevens' song, as we used to do. We were learning songs by heart. But you never know what a blackbird is. But today, if you Google blackbird, it gives you, in a matter of seconds, an image of a blackbird, shuhrur, and the translation. Names of flowers, of trees, of things. So it's an advantage. You can make the most of it in order to increase your sense of language. This opportunity we did not have. We were simply studying things without seeing them. You see? But you, on the contrary, you have the opportunity to master language because you can see things, the things you are learning. That's an advantage, for instance. You are advantaged when it comes to touching, seeing things. But unfortunately, sometimes, as I told you, when we are unfocused, we don't incorporate, we don't incorporate words, vocabulary, knowledge, ideas, and so on, because we think that it is there. It is, you can Google it anytime. That's the difference. That's the difference. So just make sure to take care of words. Images are important, but don't forget words. If you read novels, literature, for instance, I advise you, I give you, if you read, for instance, The Lost Symbol, Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol, it's a novel. It's about a blind person who, at the end of the day, succeeded in decoding, finding the code of something. All people who could see with their eyes, they could not find a solution for the puzzle or find the code that would solve them, that would save them. But he, as a blind person, he used his sense of touch to decode the message. It means sometimes we are blinded by our sense of sight. if you rely too much on your sense of sight, then you are blinded to reality. Words, they have the power to show you things that you don't see. I explain. I know it's difficult, but I'm going to repeat myself to explain the idea better. If an image can prove something to you, if you tell me I saw a ghost in Berkan, then I'm going to tell you, can you show me an image, a picture? You say, well, I do have a picture of the ghost. If you show me a picture, the picture is what? Is a proof. You prove to me that there's a ghost. But if you tell me, well, I cannot show you the picture, then you cannot, so the picture can only prove, it cannot disapprove. You see? But words, they can prove and disapprove at the same time. Words, they, if you listen, if you are home and someone knocks at your door, tuck, 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 what do you say? You say, who is knocking? It means words, they alert you to something which is hidden from your sight. When you listen to words, they invite you to see what is beyond your sight, what you cannot see. But pictures, they invite you to see something in front of your eyes, something limited. But words, they invite you to see something, because words have to do with the sense of hearing in the first place. This is why, for instance, prophets, al-Anbiya, they did not come with pictures, but they came with words. Why? Because words, al-kalimat tunabbihu ala al-ghayb. Words, they alert your mind to something that you cannot see. So they invite you to think about things that you cannot see. But pictures, they limit the scope of your perception. They limit the scope of your perception. See what I want you to see. But words, I invite you to, if you want to speak about God, you don't use a picture. You use words. Do you? Don't you? If you want to speak about God, you don't use a picture because God is not seen. So words give you some wider perspective, whereas pictures, they are important as tools, but they are less important than words because they limit the scope of your perception. They limit the scope of perception. This is why you should take care of words. Words, they widen your understanding. They invite you to contemplate, to meditate, to think, But pictures, they limit the scope of your perception. But we can use pictures. There's not a war between word and picture. No, there's no antagonism, no antagonistic relationship, no war between them. But we can use both, but never forget about words. Words, get in touch with words. You have to need them. You have to ask about their etymology, their origin, what they mean. Because it's the etymology is important, very important.
Okay, so we move on to our next student from the in-person class, Ms. Malak Thalbi.
So I'm just a bit confused about when you said knowing more than one language helps you have more perspectives. But isn't it just like the translation? So is it like it's the same words? So I don't really understand how you get another perspective from the same words and it's just translated.
Okay, well, that's a very smart question. Translation, can we translate from one language into another language? It depends. I mean, there is translation meant to convey an idea, to give you an idea an approximate idea of what is meant in the original language. When I tell you, for instance, the sun, okay? In French, it is le soleil. In Arabic, it is ash-shams. In German, it is die Sonne. So, if I want to indicate this yellow, thing in the sky, then that's enough. We need a translation to convey the idea of the sun as a natural phenomena in the sky. But if you want to make poetry, for instance, if you are in the field of poetry, of emotions, and here starts the problems of translation. Here, translation stops. For instance, the German poet Hermann Hesse, a writer and poet, he had, no, I think not Hermann Hesse, another poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, a German poet, has a poem about a love story between the sun and the moon. A love story between the sun and the moon. قصة حب ما بين الشمس والقمر. And this poem cannot be translated into French. Why? Because in French, le soleil est masculin, whereas in German, die Sonne, ash-shamsu, is feminine. So how can you translate if der Mond, al-qamaru, yuhibbu ash-shams, how can you translate it into French without altering the meaning? If you translate it, then you are altering the meaning, you are changing the meaning. Because in Arabic and in German, for instance, die Sonne, ash-shamsu, mu'annat, wal-qamaru mudhakkar. Then you see these type of problems are unsolvable. You cannot solve these problems. You cannot translate when it comes to the psychological world that we want to express, a poem, poetry, and so on. When it comes to, I give you another example. There were some students, German and Spanish students. They put them together and asked them to describe the bridge, a bridge, Qantara. They gave them an image of Qantara, a bridge, and they told them, please describe the bridge. Well, the German people, the German students, they described it in terms of elegance. It is an elegant bridge. It is beautiful. It is, and so on. But the Spanish, they described it in different terms. They said, well, it is solid. It is big. It is so and so. At the end of the day, they discovered that the description of the Germans differs from the description of the Spanish. Why? For the simple reason that die Brücke in German is feminine, al-qantaratu mu'annat, but the puente in Spanish is masculine. So you see that translation has got a limit, but then if you know the two languages, you will discover that they convey different worlds, different perceptions of the world, different visions of the world. But if you want to be practical, if you want to tell me, well, this object in the sky is called the sun in my language, I tell you, well, I call it a shams in my language. That's okay. But then if you want to make poetry about it, if you want to express your emotions in interaction with language, then translation is difficult. So it's not only a matter of translation. No, it's a matter of visions of the world. Mike?
Yeah, thank you. So now we move back to the online and we will have Mr. Al-Eid. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to thank you for this excellent intervention and analysis. But I want to ask some question. I want to say that Max Weber say that the language is the vessel of thoughts. بالعربية
sorry, the language?
The language is the vessel of thought.
Okay.
بالعربية اللغة وعاء الفكر.
نعم.
وعاء الفكر. And in this instance, I want to say that the big deal actually is how to engage with the different generation in inclusive conversation.
Welcome. Well, really smart questions and very, very intellectual questions. Of course, yes, language is the vessel of thought, or language and thought, they go together. If you think in one language, you necessarily think differently from someone who thinks in another language. Because as I explained to you, every language is a window that allows you to see reality from one perspective. Just take, for example, the verb to be. How being, it is central to philosophy. If you want to philosophize, if you want to think, then you think about being, to be, the wujud. In Arabic, we have 13 verbs that would express the idea of being. كان وأخواتها. كان, yes, كان, أصبح, أمسى, ضل, بات, and so on. They express the idea of being. But in European languages, for instance, you have only the verb to be, or être. And in Arabic, you cannot say, I am Khalid. Either you say, أنا Khalid, without using the verb to be, or you say, تستعمل الجملة الاسمية أو الجملة الفعلية. تقول مثلا, مرض محمد أو محمد مريض. But in French or in English, you say, Muhammad is sick or is ill. Why the verb to be? To link a state of being and the subject and the predicate. In Arabic, when you say كان, it means you, الوجود, you are. فعل ماضي, in the past, you exist already. Then ضل, من الظل, بات, البيت, أمسى, المساء, أصبح, الصبح. You see, the Arabic language shows how you can be in, how you are being is a matter of becoming. You always become something. You are in the morning, you are in the afternoon, you are in the tent, and so on. But in other languages, the question being is shown as something static. I am X, I am Y. It is true that if you speak Arabic, then necessarily you are going to think differently. And today we have to profit from what the image affords. The image gives us, it's a tools, it's a means that can help us see things and give a name to things. It's a marvelous tools, but it is not supposed to replace words. You know, Da Vinci, for instance, Leonardo da Vinci, the painter, he painted a heart. It still exists in Windsor Castle in Great Britain. I saw it, a museum, and he wrote under it, from now on, reality can be shown only through image, but words leave them to the blind people. It means if you want reality, you can show me an image, but if you have an image, then if you have words are only for blind people who cannot see. We don't want you to go in that direction. No, we use both images and words. images and words. Words are important. Why? Because نحن كائنات بيانية. البيان الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. البيان, it means it's the use of words to communicate and to show and to get in touch and to connect. Words, because sometimes images are unable to mean something. You know, if I play a piece of music for you, for instance, Beethoven, when Beethoven plays the Fifth Symphony, you know, da 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 da, what does it mean? It means nothing. Everyone can understand it his or her own way. But when Beethoven says one word, he adds one word, a title to it, we understand what he means. Why? Because music or images, they cannot give you meaning. They cannot fixate, they cannot fix the meaning of things. They are open to many, endless interpretations. You know, if I draw a dove, hamama, for instance, a dove, a white dove, what does it stand for? When Picasso drew a dove, some people said, well, he wants to talk about communism in Spain. Some other people talked about, you know, it remains a symbol, open to interpretations. But words, no. Words, they connect you to other people, because when I tell you a glass, there is signifier and signified, you know what I mean. You know what I mean, because we know the relationship between signifier and signified. الدال والمدلول, signifier and signified. But if I draw something in red, the relationship between signifier and signified is not clear. It's open to interpretation. You can say, well, it is communism. Some other one might tell you, well, it is the intensity of love. Some other one might come up with another interpretation. So words, they can hold culture together. They can keep us connected. They can keep us connected. But images and sounds and music and so on are important. I'm not saying that they are not or less not important. No, they are important. We can use them, but without forgetting about the appropriate use of words. Words are important.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we move to Ms. Asma Tarbi.
I'm actually very happy with your presence, and I would like to talk about the way as Muslims were able to convince, back in the years, to convince a king that our religion was the right one. I think if you remember Hajji Suhab, and he was a king that was very he was a good king actually, and I believe that the art of talking, the way they use the word, because we don't show God, we through our words and how you said earlier, we were able to prove God's existence. And I think here the manipulation of word, the art of using words, is really important. So my question is, how do you properly use words in your sentence in order to, you know, to make that good sense and use it to your own privilege? Thank you.
Well, if you want to talk, if you want to speak, you have to learn to be silent. And if you want to write or to speak, you have to learn to read. You know, reading comes before writing and comes before producing or talking or speaking. We have to learn how to be silent for a moment before speaking. And if you want your language to be convincing, you have to be a good reader. If you don't read, you will never enrich your language. Reading is very, very, very important. If you read, the more you read, the better a communicator you will become. But if you don't read, you simply want to express yourself. You have first of all to be impressed. You know, impression, انطباع, the outside word is impressed, ينطبع بداخلك, is impressed. You are impressed. And then you express yourself like explosion, impression and expression, inside and outside. So before you express yourself, you have to be impressed. You have to read. Reading is important. When you read, you will become very, very proficient when it comes to the use of language. If you don't read, you will never be able to express yourself. Maybe if you listen to podcasts, you can talk, but you will never be as convincing as someone who reads, who gets in the habit of reading, because reading is meditative. It helps you meditate, contemplate, ta'ammul, think. So get in the habit of reading. At least try to read at least 1 hour a day. At least 1 hour a day. If you start with 1 hour a day, enjoy easy readings, you know, extensive reading, just read for 1 hour. Some easy texts, you get in the habit of reading, and then you see that it makes a difference. It makes a difference. If you want to be convincing, then read and read. Reading is important.
Thank you so much.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. So we move next to Mr. Khalil Bukrai.
Hello, Mr. And thank you for answering my question. So, Mr., don't you think using translation apps can have more disadvantage as people won't learn other languages?
Thank you very much, Si Khalil. You are right. You are right. With technology, we become lazy. There is laziness. We become lazy, you know, you don't use your mind. The machine is doing the job for you. It's easy. If you seek easiness, then use some apps for translation. But it is helpful. Today it is helpful. But if you rely on it, completely on it, then you will get lost. You will learn nothing. You see, you will learn nothing. So try sometimes to avoid easiness, avoid apps, the use of apps and so on, and try to involve yourself in translation. Translate, a human translation is good. It helps you acquire language, learn language. Try with short texts, for instance, 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs. It is very, very helpful.
Thank you, Master.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, sir. So we move on to our next student, who will be Mr. Ayoub Ben Zirar.
Okay. So firstly, thank you. Secondly, like you mentioned how having a stronger relationship with words can make you understand the world more and have like a stronger relationship with reality. So like, and how language is a window to see the world. So does that mean that if you can see the world from different angles, you have a direct like relationship with how easily you can solve problems in your life? A better understanding of words means an easier way to solve problems.
Wonderful question. Yes, thank you. I mean, the Moroccans, they say it's better to have two doors than one. يقول لك اللي عنده باب وحده الله يغلقها عليه. Do you know the Moroccan proverb? So it's better to have two windows or two doors because it widens the scope of perception, of your understanding. Just imagine someone who sees reality from his own perspective. He thinks that he's the center of the world, you know, and he takes decisions. He calls to war, maybe he's enthusiastic about something, but then the moment he sees it from a different perspective, he says, oh my God, I'm mistaken, because the whole world sees it from a different perspective. So certainly learning another language helps you take decision, become a good leader, because it widens the scope of your perception. It gives you some fresh understanding of the world, and it helps you get better decisions. Certainly, I'm sure by necessity. It's something, I mean, that goes without saying. Better than someone who speaks only one language. Just the grammatic. You know what is grammar? Grammar is a way of existing. As I explained to you, the أفعال الكينونة أفعال كان وأخواتها. It is not only language, it's not only grammar, but it is grammar of existence, how to exist. So there are different ways of existing in the world. There is diversity in the world, تعدد. If you go to the forest, just when you listen to music, for instance, take Morocco as an example. If you go to Jbala, they have their own music. If you go to the south, they have their own music. If you go to the middle of the Morocco, they have their own rhythms and so on. It's diversity, ta'addud. It's richness. It's very rich. Just imagine the whole country playing one sole rhythm. It's poor, it's poverty. But diversity is something good. And linguistic diversity is very, very important. So this is why you must master not only Arabic, but English, French, and whatever language comes in your way. And football, I see that you are wearing the Moroccan t-shirt, so and football too. Sports.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Move them back to the online, and we will go to Ms. Arish bin Yazid.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank you for your wonderful speech. So my question is, like, there are some people who say that if students or maybe a person, if they learn a lot of languages, maybe they become like they might make mistakes, like maybe mix up languages, or you know, like maybe their level just drops. So my question is, what do you think about this?
Oh, yes, it's a smart question. Ibn Khaldun in Al-Muqaddimah speaks about this problem. He says, if you have more than one language, then you run the risk of being distracted. You run the risk of being unfocused. So if you have more than one language, then you need more focus. But if you grow up with more than one language, like bilingual people who speak two languages from their childhood, they do it in an automatic way. They don't mix up languages or whatever. They have learned it. They are in the habit of separating or shifting from one language into another language. But for someone who is not maybe who is not in the habit of speaking, of shifting, he needs more focus. And languages are like friends. You know, if you don't see them for a long time, then you forget about some aspects of their physiognomy or some of their aspects. So you have always to keep in touch with languages. The more you get in touch with the language, the more you can master it. So it's a challenge. It widens the scope of perception. But you know, sometimes people who grow within one language, they don't necessarily master the language because they cannot see it from a different perspective. You know, they don't question their language. لا يسائلون لغتهم. But learning, if you see your language from a different perspective, then you start thinking again about your own language, and it is enriching experience. So it's only a matter of intellectual energy, how hard working you are. You must be a hard worker, a persevering person if you want to speak more than one language. It needs energy, intellectual energy.
Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Moving next to Mr. Mohammed Zawi.
So first of all, hello, and we are very honored to have you here. And for my question, it is about learning like a language, especially English. As you said, learning language is like a window that makes us discover new perspectives and new cultures. But some people go so deeply into those new discoveries that they forget their own origins and roots. So the question is, how to keep this balance between discovering new cultures and perspectives while also being strongly attached to your culture?
Yes, wonderful. I mean, we never lose our roots. If you are rooted in your culture, in your language, the more rooted you are, the more roots you have, the better you can fly high up in the sky and discover and learn other languages. But some people, I told you at the beginning of my chat, my talk, that learning another language is not only for the sake of aping, you know, to ape, to imitate, taqlid. No, you have to do it for a purpose. You must have a purpose. You want to study the other language. You become a learner, a scholar. You study the other. تدرس الآخر, تدرس اللغة الأخرى. From your own perspective, from who you are, you feel the need to, if you want to enrich yourself by learning, by acquiring another language, not losing yourself in another people's language. No, you want to enrich your linguistic experience. You have a purpose. You have a sense of orientation, direction. You know what you want. You see? It's not just simply aping, imitating, talking about just like other people talk. No, you have to become a scholar. You have to study other people's languages. Just as other people, they study us. And this, of course, you need intellectual courage. You need to be courageous. It's not about losing one's identity. No, no, no. If you have an identity, never be afraid of losing it. You won't lose it. Just be courageous, explore the world, and you will be a richer person. When it's intellectually, I mean.
Thank you for your response.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. So we move on to Ms. Sausan from the online class.
So
Hi, my question is how we can develop reading skills using your personal experience if you want. And thank you so much. We're so happy for your presence.
You are most welcome. You know, don't read complex, complicated books in a foreign language. For instance, if you want to learn English and you get into the habit of reading, then read as much easy books as you can. Just not complicated, complex books, just easy stories. Just keep reading them non-stop, extensive reading, not intensive reading, but extensive reading. The more you read, the more you get in the habit of first of all, taking time to read, because reading is about taking time and sitting down to read. It's not easy. So just do a selection of easy, down-to-earth, plain style, as we say, very easy, and read as much as you can. You see, it helps you get in the habit of reading. And don't read complex literature, just easy. Then you realize that by and by, slowly, progressively, you will get in the habit of reading.
Thank you. So we move on next to Mr. Ryan Rabhi from the online class.
Okay, so firstly, thank you very, very much for being here with us and for the information. Okay, so what attracted me is that you focusing on something unusual. I think that we got a lot, and
There's a problem with the mic.
So as far as I can understand,
yes,
I believe that our friend Mr. Rabhi wants to say, is there any dream that you have not achieved yet?
That's it, kind of. That's it.
Oh yeah. Of course. I mean, man quits life. We are never satisfied with that what we have achieved. There will always be things missing in our life. Even before dying, I mean, you will never say, well, I have reached all things that I wanted to reach. No, that's life. Life is, we are not perfect. We don't seek perfection. And at one specific time, you have to learn to say, well, I have to take some rest and take some time for contemplation and inaction. Just contemplate, recognize your limits. You are a limited person and you cannot achieve all your goals and all your dreams. But dreams are wonderful because they give you the power to drive on, to go on. Dream, especially for the youth. For you, you have to stick to your dreams. You have to have dreams. But at the end of the day, life is what it is. Life is life, and you will never get satisfaction 100%. No, but learn to be happy with life as it presents itself. Because life at the end of the day is a present. You know what present is? Present is a cadeau, hadiyah. And the present is also the present moment. So now my presence, the present is a present. You see, al-hayatu hiba. So we have to appreciate it. We have to like it as it is too. And this is a dream, to reach this level of awareness. You know, this level of awareness is a dream, was a dream, actually, how to be at peace with oneself.
On behalf of the students, we would love to thank you for today's session. We learned a lot, and we hope to see you soon at the end of this month and meet you in person.
I thank you very much, sincerely. I thank you very much and look forward to seeing you face to face. And towards the end of the month, inshallah,